Hello everyone, welcome this evening to another Creative Conversation. Just to put this in context, Creative Conversations is an initiative here at the Department of Creative Professions and Digital Arts which looks into the interplay between creativity and commerce in the creative industries. The link with this talk is really design. But also we're interested, what we've been thinking about quite a lot at the moment is value. What values pertain to creative business? How do we value an artifact or an experience or an enterprise? And what ways are there of measuring value? And I think that this panel around design and death kind of fits into that really nicely. So I'm going to introduce Stacey. And then she's going to introduce the evening and the panel. So Dr. Stacey Pitsillides is a lecturer here at Greenwich in the Department of Creative Professions and Digital Arts. And her main research is very much in the area that she's going to talk about tonight. And it's her research that she's done with the Hospice of St. Francis. What's come out of that is what's exhibited in the gallery tonight, which relates, to some extent to what's been talked about this evening. So I'm going to hand you over now to Stacey. She's going to tell you more about what's going to happen for the rest of the evening.
I'm all mic'd up, so we're ready to go. Okay, so as Roz said, we are incredibly happy to have you here with us this evening to talk about designing death, challenges and aesthetics for the 21st century. When we think about death and around the digital, we're really interested in this idea of what it means to collect things online, what it means to be digital in the physical age, and try and think about, well, how do physical things become digital, and how do collections be contained within objects that speak to us about who we are. And in line with that, the question of what happens to our digital data after we die, so considering the questions of erasure and of, whether elements of privacy or elements of considering choice and curation in relation to what happens to those things that we keep online. In addition to that, we have rituals which tie kind of physical world relationships to death, so this being a kind of Buddhist home shrine in Japan, and the kind of digital interaction of when the candle flickers, the image flickers with it, and having that kind of ambient presence which relates to the digital space. In addition to that, we have games that become quite physical enactments of what it means to live and die physically and digitally. So things like that Dragon Cancer, which explores the story of a young boy, Joel, who in real life died of cancer and through the game is manifested. Through to elements of creative bereavement. For example, Cove, the app that allows you to explore musically your grief and try to understand how in kind of ambient ways you can process that information and think about who that person was. And elements of material decay, so the echoic vessels, which are made in a way where the voice of the dead is contained within the magnetic ink of the vessel. And as bits of the ink chip off, you can hear that voice kind of fade away. And we have these kind of poetic instances where we're trying to consider really what is mortality in the digital age and what does it mean to us. And the kind of eco-burials that have grown in this space around being able to, instead of dispose of the dead, but actually disperse them and give them as a kind of gift to the earth. So the mushroom infinity suit that kind of breaks you down. And to the Ghanaian Gar coffins, which are a creative enactment of people's understanding of who they are in the world and the way that they want to be represented in death, alongside other images of death where you have coffins which can be taken apart and put together again. And seeing what the body can produce. So the body, in ways, can produce energy. And there are two projects here that are engaging with that idea of the body as energy. So it brings us into this idea of, if we are to create energy from the body, what could we make from that? And what would that do for society? And again, Japan really pushing forward with some of these new aesthetics, both architecturally and socially, that challenge the idea of what it means to be in a temple, what it means to be buried, and what it means to be among a community, because they see it as a kind of communal activity. And to Singapore's end-of-life care with hospitable hospice, where they're challenging the kind of public perception of a hospice and working very closely with service designers to try and think about what kind of pressure points there are in that system and what would make people really comfortable to be in that kind of element. And then moving to the United States, to America, with the Zen Hospice project, working with IDEO, and this being the landing page, dying happens to all of us, to try and kind of unite. So it's not a hospice, is not only a place where people go to, you know, in that kind of stage in their life, but kind of a community. And thinking about that idea of community, we have the Coffin Club in New Zealand, and we see these kind of ad hoc actions where people are, you know, making these coffins and thinking about how they bring people together and how this moment of thinking about death or mortality is kind of bringing new notions of what death means in this age and in this society. So with that kind of introduction, that sort of rounds that sort of section of the panel. So the way we're going to run this is that we'll finish with the introductions, and then I'll let each of the speakers introduce themselves in a lot more depth. So they're going to give you their own introductions. And then we'll move into questions from me to the panel. So we'll have a bit of a discussion here on the stage. And then we'll open the floor, because I'm really curious to hear what you all think and to hear your own perspectives on this topic.